Hi guys, Tom Barclay here. I'm actually at Brighton Stadium ahead of the Spurs game, but this won't go out till after that. I thought I'd have a bit of time just before the match to talk about Mikey Moore. I'll do a video about Mikey, as I said I would a little while ago after doing the Will Lancashire one, just sort of detailing a bit more of his rise. He's obviously a very exciting player, the most exciting player from any at Tottenham to come through the club's academy since Harry Kane, and having made his full debut in Ferencváros in Hungary in the week, where he played really, really well. I thought it was quite a fitting time to do what we call in the industry a bit of a backgrounder kind of piece on Mikey. Perhaps, I haven't actually seen the team sheet yet, it's a bit too early for it today, do this a couple of hours before the game. Perhaps he'll even get his first Premier League start, and if he has such a good game, I'll probably have to start and do this video again afterwards because I'll have to include it. But I'm going to do this anyway now, a bit of time, and let's talk about Mikey Moore. So first of all, as has been pointed out quite a lot since he's played, he was born in the same season, not the same year, as Tottenham last won a trophy. So he was born in 2007 in August. Obviously Tottenham won their trophy in early 2008, winning the League Cup, which really does underline just how young he is. And that's actually a good point to start, because the fact that he's such a young age, an August baby, means that pretty much every year group he played up at Spurs, he's always been the youngest, pretty much, or one of the youngest, which is, added extra challenges, obviously from a physical point of view, which he's had to overcome. And you can sort of see how he's become so robust as a player to handle that. It's something he's always had to deal with, let alone in his first senior start against Ferencváros. Had the same thing when he was playing up in various age groups at Spurs. He was born in South London. He first came to Tottenham age 8. Instantly, from what I'm told, he stood out. Particular things that really stood out about Mikey were his dribbling skills, which are pretty obvious from what we've seen from that particular game and the cameos he's had so far. His ball striking, the way he kicks the ball, literally, that was really impressive, as well as the sort of more mental attributes of determination and enthusiasm for the game, just wanting to get better. So, already from the off, those four attributes of technical and psychological qualities sort of underlines just why he's come as far as he has so quickly. I spoke when doing this piece, I've done a piece for the Sun website, which I'm following up here with this video, with one of his old coaches, a guy called Sam Cox, who used to be at Spurs. You might remember him. I'm not sure he made a Premier League appearance, but he was at the club for quite a few years. He came through the academy like Mikey, and then has ended up coaching in the academy. He coached for about 10 years. He recently was manager of Oxford City. But Sam, really nice guy, who gave me some information about Mikey's rise. And Sam, having been at the club for such a long time, has seen a lot of good young players come through. And first of all, he said that Mikey, he puts him up there with specifically Marcus Edwards, who's obviously doing great things at Sporting Lisbon now, but as a really exciting youngster. Terry Dixon, he mentioned, is one that he came through with, who was an unbelievable talent back then, and then obviously Harry Kane. So he says Mikey sort of has shown already the ability to sort of roll with those guys, which is pretty impressive. Sam first started working with Mikey from age 11, and there was two particular stories that stand out. One was from the under 11s when Mikey was playing in a tournament at Charlton, Sam seems to recall, and he said there was a moment where he dribbled past a few players and then basically lobbed the keeper from halfway, which underlined his confidence, his technical ability to pull it off, his football IQ, as Sam put it, even such a young age, particularly again as being one of the sort of smaller, younger players. It just underlined his talent. The other one, which was a brilliant story, was in the under 14s. Sam was coaching them, and Sam was about 27 at the time, and back then he would often get involved himself in training, and he remembers marking a 14-year-old Mikey for one particular training session, a training game actually, where Mikey dropped his shoulder, jinked past him, and put it in the top bins, making Sam look quite silly, and Sam being pretty much in his physical sort of peak at that point. Really just does underline what a player Mikey was. And then from under 15 level, he was already involved in the England setup, has been involved in regularly throughout a lot of the age groups. Yet to an under 21 cap, but let's remember he only just turned 17. in August. It's just mad to think how young he is. I'm sure that will follow pretty swiftly. I know from covering England quite a lot that they don't try to rush through players unless they feel that they have no choice because they're just so good. So I would not be surprised if Mikey, the way he's going, made it there soon, but they've obviously got a lot of talent already. So there's, got like some Morgan Rogers, not even in the senior setup, which shows you the strength and depth they've got. But I'm sure and I know that the England setup have their eyes firmly on Mikey and the progress he's making. One thing that Sam Cox mentioned, which I found quite interesting, which might speak to this robustness and this physicality that Moore has, is that he liked boxing when he was younger. It's not something that's a rarity really in football. Wayne Rooney's probably the biggest example of someone who loved to box, but a lot of players do it. But apparently, Mikey liked his boxing, so that might come into exactly how he's managed to, as I say, bring that durability and physical robustness about. Apparently, he's supported by a fantastic family of his mum and dad and brothers, which has been a big part of him. And when you speak to people around the club, particularly sort of when it comes to media duties, of which he hasn't had lots so far because he's so young, they're very impressed with his maturity. When you think back to that video that they did when he signed his first contract earlier this year, he talked about the fact that he felt like he hadn't done anything yet at this stage. They're very much a sort of feet on the floor kind of character who seems quite confident in handling asking questions on camera, which for a lot of players it can be quite overawing, so that's pretty impressive. And that maturity is something that apparently impressed the coaches as well, and that's part of the reason, along with obviously his talent, why he's been given opportunities so quickly. Last season he helped Spurs win the Premier League 2 in that fantastic team that they had. He wasn't in it straight away, he was playing the under-18s, but his talent was such that pretty soon he became part of that squad and played very well, teeing up a few goals for Will Lancashire, his teammate, who obviously went on to win top scorer and PLT Player of the Year. The two of them are supposed to be pretty close. Unsurprisingly, now they've made it into the senior squad. The fact that they know each other, it's not surprising they're the ones who sort of spend the most time together out of the squad. But also Mikey seems to have been getting on with a lot of the other senior pros. But it just doesn't realise how young they are, both of them, that they still, when it comes to the training ground, get changed at the academy because they're still viewed as under 21 players. Even though, when you think about it, Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray are actually younger than Will Lancashire. They were obviously signed as first team players, so that's the reason that they changed with the senior pros. But it, just again, as I say, underscores exactly how young Mikey is to be doing what he's doing. When you watch him play, which obviously we've had a proper chance to do now, and I watched him very closely in that Ferencváros game, which I thought, it wasn't. We're always excited, particularly as journalists and fans, when a young player who's got a lot of talent bursts on the scene. It's something new, it's something different. So you do sort of kind of focus on him anyway, but I thought he backed it up massively with the way he played. He was brilliant, and you can sort of just see exactly why there's so much hype about him. He has those sort of short socks, just like Jack Grealish, who seems to have sparked a bit of a trend. I know Tyler Dibbling at Southampton does the same thing. It's probably a bit of a young player thing these days with the tiny shin pads, but Mike is definitely in that mould. Those brilliant dribbles infield, which is where that first goal for Pape Sarr came from, a nice dribble infield with a ball through, a bit of chaos in the defence where Ferencváros should have cleared it, but great finish from, a confident finish from Pape Sarr came from that. But Mikey Moore, throughout the game you saw him dribbling infield, wanting to take the ball from his teammates and be the man to make things happen, and that sounds like something very similar throughout his whole time as a young player in Spurs' academy. So great to be seeing him doing it now in the seniors. We've spoken to James Madison and Son Min in the build-up to the two Europa League games so far, in which both were asked about Mikey, and they both had fantastic things to say. So first of all, when it came to Sonny, he was up for press ahead of the Karabag game. He couldn't. It's funny, both of them couldn't help sort of talking up their talent and then trying to stop themselves and saying, look, don't put too much pressure on this young kid. But couldn't help but speak about how impressed they've been, what a top career they think they're going to have. But Son's particular point that he made was how much Mikey seems to be a very inquisitive young player, keep asking Son questions. Obviously they play in similar positions, trying to get tips, and how much Son enjoys giving those tips out and helping a hungry young player like Moore improve. Same thing for Madders, but the one thing that James Madison pointed out was how much he kind of almost has to pinch himself at how how good Mikey is at his age, but also how physically impressive he is. He feels like he's a man already for such a young age. He's just physically ready, and it's funny. Like obviously, when you look at Lancashire, who's a little bit older, he might look more sort of physically imposing, but it's almost like the burst of speed, the durability when he gets taken out, like he was in that first minute against Ferencváros. That ability to burst away from players and keep going and going as he did, playing the whole 90 minutes. He's got the endurance to do that, which belies his years really. He's a very physically impressive specimen for such a young player, and that's what Madison was pointing at and saying how scary his potential was. So yeah, just finally, looking at that Ferencváros performance, I've touched on a few of the points, his endurance, his dribbling ability, which were so good. But afterwards, Ange Postecoglou was obviously asked about him, and I think I said after that particular video that after that game, reflecting on the match, how Ange is often go-to after a good performance and for young players. It's not like he doesn't give any praise out at all, like a Nuno did, and he hated to, and presumably still hates to single out individuals. But he'll often sort of downplay a great performance a little bit, but not always, but sometimes. But he wasn't having it at all with Moore and the rest of the players, particularly Archie Gray. But with Moore, he said he was outstanding. He did say he is special. I mean, to be able to be doing this at 17 is if not unique, then very, very rare. With Lamine Yamal being the obvious other example in world football. He's done it a bit more than Mikey, to be fair to him at this stage. But he wasn't downplaying at all. Ange Postecoglou, that is. What an achievement it was already for Moore and the scale of his potential, which is really, really exciting. So now it comes to what are Tottenham going to do. They obviously decided not to loan him out to begin with. They want to keep him close, which is unsurprising given he's so young. But I feel, to round this video off really, that from what we've seen so far and what we've heard, Spurs have maybe their equivalent of Phil Foden, not completely similar kind of player, but not far off, like City had, where they're going to look to nurture and give him sort of increased game time and keep him close and keep improving him and keep working with him rather than sending him out on loan. And with the potential, the scary potential, as Madison said, that he's got, if they do it right and he avoids injury and keeps that attitude that Son's been talking about, that Sam Cox talked about, and keeps progressing, Spurs could really have a very, very exciting, possibly and potentially future top England player on their hands, which, having been a bit of a while since that last happened, you can understand why people are getting excited about Mikey Moore.